Before we begin, tell us in the comments which city and country are you watching from and what time is it there right now. Drop it below because this HFY story shows how one human didn't just survive on a hostile world, he changed it forever. The jungle of Arkano never truly slept. Even when the twin moons hung low and the mist rolled so thick it smothered the glow of the bioluminescent canopy, the sounds never stopped. Distant roars, the faint clicking of chitin along glowing roots, the whispers of creatures that preferred to hunt when nothing else dared move. Jace Orlin had learned that quickly. For 9 nights he'd lived with those sounds, not ignoring them, not fighting them, listening while his rations dwindled and his beacon pulsed into the void, hoping someone on a Terran relay would pick it up, listening while molten gold eyes stared at him from the mist, unblinking, circling like phantoms. The predators hadn't attacked outright since the 3rd night. That had been different. A young one, lean, starving, all desperation, had lunged through the fog, fangs snapping. Jace's salvaged blade had been faster, cutting a line deep enough to drop it before its claws found his throat. The rest of the pack had dragged the carcass away, growls echoing like machinery deep in their chests, and left him alive. Alive, but not alone. Every night since, they'd been there, 7 of them, ribs showing, plated shoulders jutting, their glowing spines flickering faint pulses as they circled just beyond the reach of his firelight. Always watching, always waiting. Jace crouched near the meager glow of his fire, his hood pulled low, his gray eyes scanning the mist, his fingers traced the jagged edge of his blade absently as he chewed the last bite of a ration bar, the synthetic protein dry and tasteless. The pack's molten eyes shifted in the dark, tracking the faint sound of his chewing like sharks tracking blood in the water. 3 sealed rations left, enough for 2 days if he stretched them, maybe. The wind shifted. The mist curled closer, thickening around the glowing roots that laced the soil like veins. One of the predators, the largest, its spines jagged along its back, stepped just far enough into the firelight for Jace to see its ribs contract with each shallow breath. Hunger didn't just ride them, it controlled them. He could fight tonight. Maybe win, maybe not. Or Jace glanced at his pack. The predators were still watching, always watching. On Arkano, survival wasn't about fighting every threat until your body failed. Sometimes, survival meant doing something the predators didn't understand. Jace reached into his pack, pulled out one of the sealed ration cases, and cracked it open. The scent of synthetic meat drifted into the humid air, faint but sharp. Every molten gaze in the mist sharpened. The clicks began, low, rapid, bouncing between the predators like an alien language. He didn't move quickly. No sudden motions, no tension in his posture. He broke the ration into several pieces and laid them carefully on a flat stone near the fire's edge. Then, slowly, he leaned back, palms open and resting on his knees, his breathing calm, deliberate. The mist shifted again. The leader, the scarred brute with molten eyes and jagged spines, stalked forward. Each step was measured, claws sinking into the damp soil without a sound. Its ribs showed, each breath sharp, but it didn't lunge. Not yet. Jace didn't meet its eyes directly. Predators didn't always see direct stares as courage. Sometimes, they saw it as a challenge. He kept his gaze soft, glancing between its shoulders, its tail, the flicker of its spines, watching its body more than its eyes. The creature stopped near the stone, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the rations. Its spines flickered faint pulses, one long, 2 short, before it grabbed a piece in its jaws and retreated a step. Behind it, the rest of the pack stilled. Only when the leader swallowed its share did the others emerge from the mist. Gaunt, plated figures moving in deliberate unison, their golden eyes flashing in the firelight as they devoured the pieces. The bluish juvenile, the smallest, with softer spines that pulsed faintly, paused halfway, molten eyes locking on Jace. Its gaze lingered longer than the others before it bent to eat. Jace stayed still, his breathing slow, his hands resting open on his knees. He didn't reach for his blade, didn't flinch when one of the larger predators sniffed the air close to his shoulder before retreating to the mist. When the last scrap was gone, the pack pulled back into the fog. But not as far. They didn't vanish entirely this time. They settled just beyond the firelight, their spines dimming to faint embers, their golden eyes watching not as hunters, but something else. Jace reached into his pack again, pulled another ration, and set it beside him in plain sight. He didn't open it, just let it sit. Then he leaned back against the glowing root behind him, his hood shadowing his eyes as he closed them. By the time the twin moons climbed high and the mist cooled, the predators weren't circling him as prey anymore. They were circling him as something they hadn't decided on yet. Dawn on Arcanal didn't come with warmth, only a dim shift in the canopy glow as the first of the dual suns began to bleed through the mist. Jace woke to find the predators still there, not in the shadows now, but sprawled near the edge of the extinguished fire, their ribs rising and falling as they dozed with one eye open. The bluish juvenile lay closest, its faint glow brushing his boots every time it exhaled. The leader lifted its head slowly, molten gaze locking on him as it loosed a low, throaty hum, not hostile, but not soft either. A statement. Jace crouched, warming his hands against the last ember. He glanced at the ration pack beside him, then back at the molten gaze of the leader. Slowly, he tore it in half. One piece he tossed toward the scarred brute. The other, he set near the bluish juvenile. The rest of the pack waited. They didn't advance until the leader took its share, swallowing it whole. Only when it released another low hum, a resonance that rippled through their spines, did the others step forward to feed. The growls weren't hunger anymore. They were something closer to contentment. Jace leaned back, watching, calculating. Food first, he murmured under his breath. Then trust. Then, his gray eyes met the leader's molten stare. For a moment, neither of them moved. The brute's spines flickered once, faint and deliberate, before it turned back to its pack. Jace almost smiled, then something else, because on Arcanal, survival didn't always start with a blade. Sometimes, it started with a shared meal and ended with a pack that could change the balance of a world. The jungle's glow sharpened as Arcanal's twin suns crept higher, burning through the lingering mist. The light wasn't warm. It was pale, filtered through bioluminescent canopies that never went dark. But it shifted enough to rouse the predators fully. Their ribs flexed as they stretched, spines flaring in faint, synchronized pulses that lit the forest floor like a slow heartbeat. Jace Orlan crouched near the cold remnants of his fire, his hood shadowing his eyes. The bluish juvenile, smallest of the seven, its glow softer and slower, lingered beside him, tilting its head with quiet curiosity every time he moved. The leader rose last. The scarred brute's molten gaze swept over its pack, then settled briefly on Jace before it emitted a deep, resonant hum. The others fell silent instantly, their glowing pulses dimming until only faint threads of light ran along their spines. For 9 nights, Jace had survived by staying apart, feeding them scraps and keeping still when they prowled. Today he knew that would change. Feeding wouldn't be enough forever. Predators didn't respect charity. They respected rhythm, coordination, and action. He tapped his fingers against the shard of black stone at his belt. 2 short strikes, a pause, then a single long drag across its surface. The sound was dull but carried along the glowing roots beneath the soil, faint vibrations rippling outward. The leader's ears twitched. Its molten eyes flicked toward him, then its spines dimmed, pulsing faintly in time with the beat. One by one, the others mirrored it, their pulses syncing like an unspoken language. The bluish juvenile pressed closer, its soft glow rising and falling with each tap. Jace didn't smile, he just stood, slung his battered pack over his shoulder, and gestured toward the dense interior of the forest. The leader tilted its head, then turned without a sound and led the way. The others flowed behind, 7 shadows weaving through the glowing roots like a single organism. Jace followed at their flank, moving light and quiet, letting his boots roll over the soft soil. On Arcanal, surviving wasn't about who had the sharpest claws. It was about who could make the planet itself listen. The deeper they traveled, the thicker the world became. The bioluminescent trees here pulsed in irregular waves, their roots glowing faintly beneath the soil like tangled veins. Each time the pack stopped, Jace crouched and pressed his palm to the ground, feeling the subtle quakes that moved through those glowing strands. They weren't random, they told a story. The short, skittering tremors of something small and fast. The long, heavy thrum of something massive lumbering through the distance. The faint, almost imperceptible rhythm of burrowers tunneling beneath. When the vibrations shifted, Jace and the pack felt it together, a steady, deep pulse. Not frantic, not fast. Something large, armored and unaware of what lay above it. The leader's molten gaze swung to Jace. Its spines flickered once, questioning. Jace crouched, his palm against the soil, closing his eyes briefly. The tremors told him enough. A segmented beast, translucent plates, long maw, dangerous if cornered, vulnerable if startled. The ground ahead was soft, riddled with fissures and glowing veins that would collapse under sudden stress. He tapped the shard of stone again, 3 short pulses, a pause, too long. The leader's spines flickered in response. The pack spread out, their movement silent as they formed a crescent around the unstable ground. The soil split with a wet, grinding crack as the creature erupted from below, its translucent body glistening in the dim light, its segmented plates reflecting the glow of the trees. It loosed a shriek that shook the canopy, sending glowing spores raining down like fireflies. The pack tensed, spines flaring, but didn't strike. Not yet. Jace tapped again, this time slower, heavier, matching the rhythm of the creature's tremor. The leader's spines dimmed to near black. The others followed. The pack became a whisper in the jungle. The creature hesitated, sensing something it didn't understand. It pivoted, retreating toward the softer, fissured soil. That's when the pack moved. Not in chaos, in rhythm. They darted along the edges of the basin, snapping their jaws and releasing short, sharp pulses of glow that synchronized with Jace's tapping. The combined vibrations turned the fissured ground into a living snare. The segmented beast dove, and the earth gave way. The glowing veins beneath it tore apart, pockets of gas hissing upward as the creature plunged deep into the basin. Its shrieks echoed for only seconds before the soil sealed behind it, leaving nothing but faintly glowing fracture. The leader stalked to the basin's edge, molten eyes fixed on the settling soil. Then, slowly, it turned to Jace. The deep hum it released wasn't for the pack this time. It was directed solely at him, a sound not of warning, but of acknowledgement. For the first time, the predators weren't just tolerating Jace Orlin, they were listening to him. That night, the pack didn't linger at the edges of his camp. They settled in a loose ring around his fire, their ribs rising and falling in unison as their spines pulsed slow, steady light. The bluish juvenile lay nearest, its glow brushing against his boots as it dozed, faint hums escaping its throat with each breath. Jace leaned back against the glowing root behind him, tapping the shard absently against his knee. Short bursts, long drags, the rhythm was becoming second nature now. The predators shifted slightly with each beat, not fully understanding, but responding. The forest beyond the fire was quiet, until it wasn't. A roar shattered the stillness, low and resonant, rolling through the jungle like distant thunder. The glowing trees flickered, their pulses faltering for a moment. The bluish juvenile snapped awake instantly, its glow brightening in alarm. The leader rose to its feet, spines dimming to near black, as it loosed a deep growl, chest vibrating with unease. Through the mist, a shape moved. Not many shapes, just one. It was enormous, its plated body taller than the trees, each limb ending in claws that gouged deep scars into the glowing soil. Its molten glass plates shimmered as acidic mist hissed around its joints, and every step sent shockwaves down the root network, making the veins flare in warning beneath their feet. The pack crouched low. Even the leader dipped its head slightly, releasing a low, guttural hum that rattled the soil. Jace didn't step back. He crouched, pressed his palm flat to the ground, and felt the deep, pounding rhythm of the Alpha's gate. Each impact wasn't just a quake, it was a signal. The planet reacted to weight, to pattern, to disturbance. He tapped the shard against a root. Once, twice, a pause, 3 sharp pulses. The leader's ears twitched, its molten gaze flicked toward him, spines dimming to match the rhythm. One by one, the rest followed, their glowing pulses sinking until the entire pack pulsed as one, their breaths steady, their fear contained. The jungle shifted, the glowing roots beneath them began to hum faintly, the veins light pulsing in time. The Alpha stopped mid-step, its massive plated head tilting, the molten plates along its back rippled as it scanned the mist. It felt the tremor, not prey, not challenge, but something older, something the planet itself seemed to be amplifying. Jace rose slowly, his gray eyes fixed on the Alpha's distant glow, because on Arcanol, survival wasn't about fighting harder or running faster. It was about making even the apex predators hesitate. The Alpha Predator stood at the edge of the clearing like a living mountain, its molten glass plates shimmering as acidic mist hissed around its massive joints. Its head swayed slowly, molten eyes sweeping the forest, reading the tremors beneath the soil as it moved one colossal claw forward. Each impact sent ripples through the glowing root network, making the bioluminescent veins flare in bright, stuttering pulses. The predator pack around Jace Orlin crouched so low their ribs nearly brushed the soil, their spines dimmed to faint embers, breaths short and shallow. Even the scarred leader, molten gaze locked on the Alpha, released a low, vibrating hum of unease. Arcanol's entire forest seemed to hold its breath, the usual chorus of distant roars and skittering clicks silenced by the sheer weight of the creature's presence. Jace crouched too, but not because of fear. His gray eyes tracked the Alpha's heavy, deliberate movements, noting how each step bent the soil, how every tremor carried farther than the last. His palm pressed flat to the glowing root beneath him, feeling the planet itself react. The ground wasn't just earth here. It was alive, a network of luminous threads and gaseous pockets that pulsed to rhythm. Predators like the Alpha had always relied on strength and terror to control this ecosystem, but Jace had learned something in 9 days. Arcanol listened more closely to pattern than power. He lifted the shard of black stone he'd kept close since day one and struck it lightly against the root. One short tap, two in quick succession. A pause. 3 sharp pulses. The pack shifted. The leader's molten eyes flicked toward Jace for just a moment, then its spines began to pulse faintly in time with the rhythm. One by one, the others followed, their light sinking until the jungle floor seemed to breathe with their glow. The Alpha stopped mid-step. Its massive head tilted, molten plates rippling along its spine as it scanned the basin below. It felt the vibrations. Not challenge. Not prey. Something it didn't understand, an unnatural tremor, amplified by the roots themselves. Jace straightened, just slightly, and began to move. Not toward the Alpha. Sideways, skirting the edge of the glowing basin where the ground was soft, riddled with glowing veins and fissures. His tapping grew louder, slower, matching the cadence of the Alpha's steps. The bluish juvenile stayed closest, its soft glow rising and falling with each beat as if it had known the pattern its entire life. The leader followed Jace's lead without a sound, stalking along the opposite side of the basin. The rest of the pack spread into a crescent, forming a perimeter around the unstable ground. The Alpha rumbled a low, guttural roar, its molten eyes narrowing as it stepped closer. Its claws sank into the soil, triggering bursts of blue-white glow as gas hissed upward in curling plumes. The jungle's glow dimmed, the bioluminescent canopy above flickering like a nervous pulse. The creature lowered its head and let out a bellow so deep it shook spores from the trees. The ground quivered violently. The bluish juvenile pressed against Jace's leg for just a second, but it didn't break formation. Jace tapped the shard again, sharp and deliberate, in a staccato rhythm that mimicked the vibrations of a collapsing fissure. The leader tilted its head and let out a resonant hum, so deep it rattled the basin's roots. The pack responded in perfect sync, their glowing spines flickering in coordinated bursts. The combined sound and light turned the ground into a living signal. The Alpha paused, its massive claws curling into the soft soil as its molten eyes darted between the glowing fissures. It felt the ground shift beneath it, not from an enemy, but from the planet itself. The hums grew louder, the pulses quickened. The basin vibrated like a drum beneath its weight. Then, the earth opened. The Alpha's right forelimb plunged deep into a collapsing fissure, hissing gas erupting like a geyser around it. Its bellow shook the forest as it tried to pull free, tearing glowing roots and soil apart, but every thrash sent new tremors rippling outward. The fissures widened. Pale fire ignited where the gases met the air, casting ghostly light across the basin. The pack lunged, not at the Alpha, but to corral. They darted along the edges, snapping their jaws and releasing bursts of glow in time with Jace's rhythm, pushing the creature deeper into the unstable ground. Each strike, each pulse, amplified the chaos beneath its feet. Jace signaled with one hand, a sharp wave, 3 downward taps against the root. The leader tilted its head, spines flaring briefly before it loosed a hum so deep the marsh itself seemed to respond. The Alpha bellowed one last time, thrashing wildly as the basin collapsed beneath its bulk. The glowing veins around it flared in a blinding pulse as the creature sank waist deep, then vanished beneath the muck with a hiss of gas and a final, earth-shaking tremor. When the light faded, the basin was silent, except for the faint hiss of settling soil and the steady glow of untouched roots along the edges. Jace crouched near the rim, pressing his palm to the soil one last time. The vibrations were gone. The planet was calm again. For the first time, the predator pack didn't look to each other after a kill. They looked to him. The leader approached first, molten gold eyes locked on Jace. It loosed a low, steady hum, not a warning, not a threat. An acknowledgement. The bluish juvenile padded forward next, pressing its side briefly against his leg before retreating with a soft flicker of its spines. The others followed, circling him loosely, their glowing pulses syncing with the faint vibrations of the roots beneath their feet. The jungle around them seemed to shift. The bioluminescent canopy, which had flickered nervously moments before, now pulsed in slow, steady waves. Even the faint tremors of smaller creatures had stilled, as if the ecosystem itself had accepted the new balance of power. Jace rose, sliding the shard of stone back into his belt. He didn't need it anymore. The rhythm wasn't just his now, it belonged to the pack, to the forest, to the entire living network of Arcanal. They moved together, leaving the collapsed basin behind. The predators flanked him in loose formation, the bluish juvenile trotting closest to his boots, while the scarred leader walked at his shoulder. None of them looked back. When they reached the ridge overlooking the basin, the leader released one final hum, deep and resonant, letting it roll through the glowing roots beneath them. Jace crouched and tapped the soil 3 times. A pause, then one long drag. The leader's spines flickered faintly in response before dimming to a calm pulse. The planet had listened, the predators had listened, and now, so had the Alpha's corpse beneath the marsh. For the first time since he crashed on Arcanal, Jace Orlin wasn't just a survivor. He was the rhythm the planet and its deadliest hunters followed. That night, the predators didn't sleep in a protective ring. They slept closer, within arm's reach, their glowing pulses synchronized as they dozed. The bluish juvenile curled near his side, its breathing slow and steady, syncing with the faint vibrations beneath the soil. Jace sat awake, his back against a glowing tree, gray eyes scanning the mist beyond the firelight. He wasn't thinking about rescue anymore. Not tonight. Tonight, he was thinking about what came next, because Arcanal wasn't his enemy anymore. It was his to command. The first sound Jace Orlin heard wasn't the jungle. It wasn't the distant roars or the hum of glowing roots beneath the soil. It was the deep, mechanical thrum of engines. Terran engines. He stood on the ridge, gray eyes narrowed as the mist began to shift below. Through the glowing canopy, beams of artificial light cut across the fog. A Terran frigate descended into the clearing, its thrusters flattening the bioluminescent ferns and sending spores spinning through the air like drifting embers. The predator pack stirred around him. 7 glowing silhouettes shifted in the dim light, their spines pulsing faintly in sync. The bluish juvenile pressed close to Jace's leg, its glow dimming instinctively. The scarred leader, standing just at his shoulder, loosed a low, resonant hum, not fear, but a warning. Jace's hand brushed the shard of black stone at his belt. He hadn't needed it in 2 days. The rhythm had become part of him. But with humans about to step into Arcanal, he suspected he'd need every tool he had, because the predators weren't the threat now. The Marines were. Rescue didn't always mean safety. Sometimes it meant keeping your own species from undoing everything. The frigate's landing struts hit the soil with a hiss of steam. A ramp extended, flooding the clearing with white light. 2 Terran Marines emerged first, visors glowing as their scanners swept the fog. Rifles raised, their movements were sharp, precise, and nervous. Behind them, a retrieval officer in slate-gray armor stepped onto the ramp, scanning the glowing jungle with cold efficiency. "Beacon confirmed," one Marine said over comms, voice crackling through Jace's earpiece. "Multiple unknown biosigns detected, large, hostile signatures. Recommend immediate neutralization." Jace stepped forward from the ridge, slowly, deliberately. His hood shadowed his face, but his hands stayed visible at his sides. Behind him, the predator pack flowed like liquid shadow, silent, spines dimmed to faint threads of light. They stopped just at the edge of the mist, their molten eyes watching. The Marines froze. Rifles snapped up. "Predators, 7-count pack. Open fire." "Hold your fire," Jace called out, his voice calm but carrying. He descended the slope at a steady pace, each step measured. "They're with me. They won't strike unless you give them a reason to." The retrieval officer's visor tilted toward him. "With you?" Her voice carried no disbelief, only calculation. "Or waiting for us to turn our backs." Jace stopped at the base of the slope, his posture loose but steady. "They hunted me for 9 days. I fed them, taught them the planet's rhythm. They hunt with me now. You pull those triggers, you'll start a war you won't win." The officer regarded him for a long, silent moment. The Marine's fingers twitched on their triggers, their eyes darting to the glowing eyes behind him. One nervous move, and it would be over. Jace took one slow step closer, his voice steady. "You want me off this planet? Fine. But they stay alive. You kill them, you undo everything holding Arcanal's ecosystem at bay right now. Those fissures, those rhythms, the entire forest is balanced on fear of them. You erase that, and this planet swallows your frigate whole." The officer's head tilted slightly. "You're telling me 7 predators are the only thing keeping the rest of this world in check?" Jace's gray eyes flicked back toward the ridge. The scarred leader's molten gaze met his, unblinking. The bluish juvenile's glow brightened faintly, as if sensing his attention. The rest of the pack stood motionless, breaths even, spines dim. He turned back to her. "I'm telling you that I am. Through them. You want to leave this planet without casualties. You let them keep doing their job. From the ridge, not as prey, not as trophies, as Arcanal's enforcers." The officer studied him for another long moment before signaling the Marines to lower their rifles. "Fine. They don't come aboard. We extract you. They stay." Jace crouched, pressing his palm flat to the soil. 3 short taps. A pause. 1 long. The same rhythm he'd used to earn their trust, to teach them, to make the planet itself listen. The leader's spines flared faintly, as did the others, before dimming back to calm pulses. He stood, adjusting his pack. "They'll hold the ridge. They understand the signal. That's enough." The officer gestured toward the ramp. "Then move. Command's eager to hear how you survived 9 days on Arcanal's kill zones without a single injury, and with an Apex pack at your back." Jace didn't answer. He glanced over his shoulder one last time as he walked toward the frigate. The predator pack remained on the ridge, their glowing eyes tracking him. The scarred leader loosed one deep hum, a sound that resonated through the glowing roots beneath their feet. Jace tapped the rhythm once more against his thigh. 3. Pause. 1 long. And stepped onto the ramp. The frigate lifted, its engines kicking up a storm of mist and spores as it rose. From the viewport, Jace watched the glowing jungle recede, the twin moons painting it silver as the ridge shrank to a faint line of light. The predators remained there, 7 glowing points in the fog, standing like sentinels as the frigate cut upward through the atmosphere. Inside the cabin, one of the Marines finally broke the silence. 9 days, 7 apex predators at your back. No injuries, no beacon movement. How in hell did you manage that? Jace leaned back against the bulkhead, eyes still on the shrinking glow of Arcanal below. His voice was calm, almost detached. Didn't fight harder, didn't run faster. I listened longer, fed them, learned the rhythm of the planet, made the pack trust me, and made Arcanal trust us. The Marine snorted. That's not survival. That's, he trailed off, shaking his head. Something else. Jace's fingers tapped idly against his knee. 3 short pause, 1 long. The rhythm was instinct now, a part of him. His gaze didn't leave the viewport as the twin moons vanished behind the dark. His voice was barely a whisper, but the words lingered in the quiet cabin. No, that's what happens when a human stops being prey and shows the predators what to fear. If this story struck you, hit like, share it, and drop your thoughts below. Did Jace tame the predators, or did they tame him? Subscribe now, because the next HFY legend is already stalking the stars, waiting for its moment.